Howdy, sir. How you doing?
Hey Adam, how are you, man?
I'm alive, I guess. Hey, Darren, you made it. How's it going?
I did, yeah. Sorry, I was a little late.
Oh, no worries. No worries. So, yeah, Darren and I had the privilege of going on a word salad journey. Is that the best way to put it with the investor that we did yesterday? Whew.
Yes.
So we did. Darren did some deep research and said that he seemed a little sketchy. So I went a little bit further and put together. Here, I'll put this in the chat really quick.
Yeah, that was a great document, by the way, Adam.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Well, that was. I didn't do anything. The only thing I did was just ask Gemini to do it for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to give you a heads up in case you come across this guy in your in your passing. So there's a link right there.
Is this into our Discord channel?
Yes, it is. So it's the community. We changed. It used to be called the community pitch roast, but we changed it to the community pitch. What did we change it to? Community deck review. That's what it was. So this guy came in April, specifically in his first two renditions of his deck mentioned that he was using, and I totally forgot yesterday when we were on the call, or Wednesday, I mean, when we were on the call, but that was yesterday. Wow, I lost a day. But yeah, he specifically said in his first two decks in April when he put it into this that he was using what is it? Cryptocurrency.
Crypto, yeah.
As like, yeah. So that was his quote unquote bank account, and that's why he was able to do big returns. And I legitimately specifically asked him, check the regulatory on that and see if it's, copacetic. Is that what can you actually do this? Is it, what kind of regulatory action do you need? So he went ahead and didn't post any updates on that, booked himself into the community pitch and presented this. I'm just going to call a spade, sketchy as fuck deck. And then when we're asking questions about, what the mathematics were on it, like Darren asked him, 5 times? And
Yeah.
I think Fabio asked him 3 times. And
Yes.
it was just word salad, and he was getting agitated. And I'm like, and then I remembered after the fact that it was somebody had mentioned crypto, and I'm like, yeah, that's what it was. I totally forgot what it was. So I put that document in there.
Is this the RBIT document you're talking about?
Yes.
Yep.
This is under the. I'm looking in the channel as well, Adam, on the community deck review.
Yeah.
It's really weird, but my channel does not look like that. I don't even see that conversation. I'm wondering why.
Oh, you don't?
No. Mine is all like Acme Corp, example post with template, feedback, pivot, feedback.
Interesting.
Am I not looking at the right thing here?
Let me take a look. I should have sent you the direct link, but maybe I don't know the reason why.
What happened was when I clicked on link, it opened a separate tab for my Discord channel. So I have the other tab open that I've been using, and I'm just comparing where the link that you sent me, which looks like yesterday. I don't have that when I go to the original Discord channel that I'm using with Founders Group under community.
Yeah, on either one of those, just click the number 2 where it'll say 2 community deck review, and it should be the very first one that you see underneath the Acme Corp example post with template.
So so then I click. What do I click? Okay, so
click on that thread where it says ready ribbit. I call it a ribbit financial. And
no, what I'm saying, Adam, maybe I'm not explaining this correctly. What I'm saying is that I've got two original one I've been using all this time.
Right.
Link that you sent me opened up a new one. So I'm sitting here doing apples to apples comparison, looking at the link
Okay.
that you sent me. I see the RBIT document in the one that you sent me. But when I go to the original Discord that I've been using, I don't have that thread or anything similar to what I'm seeing on your when I
Oh.
just open. It's a very
Interesting.
different, completely different view. Anyway, we can talk about offline.
Right. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Did you refresh the one that you were originally using? Just refresh that one and see if it, like, maybe it was, because I posted that late last night, and I don't know if it's
No.
just been sitting there. But that's been since this morning.
Let's see here.
There may be something
Hey,
different.
Neil.
I just checked my Discord. I've got it.
I'm gonna take a picture of it and send it to you. I'll show you.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. How's it going, Neil?
All good. Just got out of training.
Very good. Yeah, I'm at my day job, so I'm taking a break. I came in this morning, I'm like, I hate to do this to you, but at 10:45, even if the world's on fire, I need to I need to take a break at this time. All right, cool. Hey, Neil, you got any questions for Ichen or Darren?
I mean, there's a bunch of stuff I've been thinking about in general. Darren, I think Darren is a little familiar with what I do. But just to tell each other, so I'm a therapist. That's my day job, and I've lately been also trying to expand my work into working with founders, and I've developed sort of a system to also understand the things that will affect them as they build their companies, as they build their products, and they work with investors. Something actually that Darren had said 2 weeks ago that I've been thinking about a lot and I want to write about is that founders come in and the investor knows that, like, they're here for money. There's no way that an investor doesn't know that somebody's not coming to them for money. But it's what a lot of founders end up not doing is being able to build that relationship because they're stuck in this mode of asking for money. And then the investor also then gets stuck in this mode of, asking, why should I give you money? Instead of either of them being in a position to build a relationship. And I've just been thinking about that, and I've been also just wondering, what is that experience for an investor? When you, day in and day out, you're just getting founders coming and saying, hey, can you give us money?
You mean what it's like for me as the investor when I get hit up 40 times a day?
Yeah, I guess.
Look, I try to be helpful. I don't want to, be something where, I pride myself on being like an ecosystem builder where I'm based here in the Dallas ecosystem. And, truth be honest, not everyone's going to be a great fit, right? You can't really make everyone happy. So I try to give really good constructive feedback. One thing that I do, and I'm actually doing a speaking series on it this weekend for an accelerator program. And I'm actually putting together a presentation. I've already put it together, but a presentation on how to structure a meeting with an investor, how to structure a 30-minute meeting with an investor, right? And it really walks through what, as an investor, what do we look for? What are important, right? And there's really some amazing things that you would think founders would know, and yet they still make these common mistakes. And so, yeah, I just try to be very constructive because it may be a category that is not really around a thesis that I'm, supporting. Now, for me, I'm more of a generalist, so I'm fairly agnostic. And the angel network that I'm the chairman of, we're also agnostic. There are two categories that we typically have a little hard time investing in. That's medical devices, which typically need FDA 510K approval.
Yeah.
And Darren's not going to agree. And Darren, you're in Bentonville, I remember correctly. I think I met you in Bentonville, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And the other category, Neil, is like CPG, right? They require a little bit more upfront, heavier lift on the finances because you get a PO and maybe from a Walmart or a big box retailer, but yet you don't have the funds to go out and source the or the cogs, to get your cogs down and things like that. So those, not that we don't invest, but those are a little tougher. We want to see a little more traction. So I'm very clear and direct to the point if I find them that they're in a certain category, those two particular, if they're coming from those two categories, I'm very clear. But as far as just like, I structure this presentation around what and how to get this meeting. And be honest, a VC or an angel investor you probably get less than 30 minutes. I think within 10 minutes as a founder and as an investor, you'll know if this is a fit or not. And if it's not a fit, I don't want to be sitting on the call for another 20 minutes. I'd rather just say, hey, I don't think it's a great fit. Here's what I would suggest, or here's some other people I might recommend, or some things I would do. It's just not a fit for what we're doing. And I just really feel like my gut radar goes off pretty quickly. I've been doing this for almost 14 years now as an investor. That I just kind of have a good feeling of, is this going to be a right deal or not? And if it is something where I want to move forward with, and I'm talking to them, and I genuinely think this is a great opportunity, then I'm going to be obviously more engaged, more interactive. But on the initial reach out that I get from founders, it's dating, right? It's really dating. It's like getting that first date, trying to get to the next date, right? The goal is not really to pitch on the first date. It's just to kind of give you a brief overview, high synopsis, and see if there is a match at all that says, hey, I want to now, let's say I meet you at a networking event, right? Or via LinkedIn or whatever it might be. That first date is quick, but if it's enough to say, hey, I really would love to talk to you more, let's get on a call, schedule 20, 30 minutes, whatever. Right? But that goal, if you're a founder, is really to get to the second date, right? The first date is meeting in person, an event, whatever. But I get hit up all the time, obviously. I've got angel investor in my title. I've got, yada, yada, yada. And so, yeah, there's a psychology to it all. It's a game that you play. And part of my presentation is about playing the game, playing the dating game, because ultimately, if you do get an investor as a founder, you get an investor on board, right? Whether you're married or not, you've got a new spouse. And they're going to be in your hair. They're going to be wanting to know about updates. And, and some part of it is that you want that strategic investor who can also help you open doors or bring in new partnerships or clients, things like that. But to get that investor, it may require 100 dates or 100 meetings with founders or with investors and VCs before you really get that yes. And it's a numbers game and it's a dating game. And so when I do have that opportunity where I sit down and genuinely get to know someone, you're a therapist, I kind of play a little bit of a psychology evaluation on the founder or founders. I really want to know, can they execute? Can they really, handle the fire? Because we all know crap hits the fan all the time as a startup, right? Do I believe that they can pivot or need to pivot? Can they do that? So in this world of uncertainty, the one thing I can do is look that founder in the eye and really try to psychoanalyze and evaluate that founder to really see if they got that kind of factor. What do you think, Darren?
Yeah, I'm just nodding my head a lot. I mean, it's funny because Neil and I talked a bit, probably about 2 weeks ago. I was on the Monday call, and we talked about. I used to do workouts, turnaround consulting, and I was saying to Neil, I'm like, half of it was psychology because it was about the culture of the company. And you could go in and you could cut the expenses and you could kind of make some moves to get the company on track. But if you didn't fix the culture, you were going to end up right back where you were in 6 to 12 months. And now that I've kind of moved more into the startup, angel investing stuff, it's the same thing, right? I mean, you get people who can talk a really good game, but you don't know whether they can execute. And then you've got people who can you think are good execution people, but they don't know how to market the company, and they're going to need people around them. And so it's becomes about how coachable people are. Are they trying to do it alone? Like I have a good friend of mine who's trying to start a company, and he's been a sole proprietor coach his whole life. And his weakness, and the reason I will not invest in him, is because he can't get out of that mode. He believes he has to do everything himself. And I'm like, until you're willing to realize you need a team, you're not going to ever get anywhere. You're just going to be a one-man band your whole life. But trying to break 35 years of that as a habit is challenging. So yeah, I think those are all really good points. And I do think you can figure it out, whether a lot of it's personal connection, right? Do you have a personal rapport that you're able to connect easily with that founder? Sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. And if I can't, then it's the hard no for me.
Yeah, I would concur. Yeah, I think from a founder perspective, Neil, right? And I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started 5 companies and I've exited from my last 2. Okay, so I'm looking at this. If I'm a founder, can I make this feel like an inevitable company within 30 minutes? And what I mean by that is, look, PCs, angels, right? They don't really care how smooth or how pretty your pitch is, to be honest. They care about how much real decision relevant information you can deliver. How easy is it to understand? Can you clarify this in a very simple manner that is understandable, that potentially has an impact, right? A lot of it is around, as we talked just now, about the founders, right? And can they execute? Can they really perform at a high level and get this thing across the finish line? And as Darren says, one thing that absolutely is a showstopper for me is that if you have the ego size of a house, I can't do business with you. If you are not coachable, you're not investable. And that is such a big thing. I tell every founder, you better check that ego at the door. I've been doing this for 20 some odd years and I'm still learning every day. There's no way in hell you can even know everything. And you certainly can't pretend it because you're BSing me if you are. So I look at it like, I call it signal density. It's really how much real substance can you pack into every minute? Okay. Think of signal as just like proof that reduces the risk, right? And we grew from 200 to 1,200 customers in 6 weeks, or we had a 50% weekly retention. Our customers are switching from our competitor to us because of this, right? Or we closed 4 paid pilots without any outbound marketing. I mean, those are signals. Those are signal density, in my opinion, right? You've got concrete versus like a low signal, which would be like, well, we're really excited, or this market is huge. Everyone says the TAM is huge, right? I mean, I need to have a little more concrete to that, or people love it. And show me the numbers. If you watch Kevin O'Leary in Shark Tank, he says, okay, sounds great. Now tell me the numbers.
Yep.
And you'll hear him say, "Ay caramba, it's really great," or "This is a lifestyle or a hobby," not a successful business. So you think about, and again, I think a lot of founders, especially technical founders, they get so into the weeds so quickly and get so deep, and they're not very, the clarity is not there, right? And I want to see that clarity. I want to see how quickly do they get it and how quickly can they explain it in a very clear, concise manner, right? For instance, I was working with a legal tech guy, and he initially told me something like, "We're building an AI-powered workflow optimization layer for legal ecosystems." And I'm like, what the hell does that mean exactly? I said, let's work on this, okay? By the time we were done, in like, I don't know, 15 minutes or so, his little impact statement was, "We help small law firms automate client intake using AI, cutting admin time by 50%. Right? Just the tweaking of that in 15 minutes was so much more clear, much more clarity, right? And so I think a lot of founders just get caught up in what they're doing and not really being able to deliver that impactful, statement that again has that clarity. And all that makes sense or not, but there's some of these little just traits, again, kind of going back to what Darren said, a lot of psychoanalysis, right? Of just analyzing this person, understanding their kind of psyche and their mental, aptitude. And because again, I can't control what the market's doing and the conditions. I cannot control the outside factors, but the one thing I can look and see is the founder or founders and the team that he or she puts together. Is this the right team? Why you guys? What makes you unique? And the founding team or the founder and founders really is what I'm banking on as an investor more than anything else. Nothing against what you're solving the problem, but I really believe 60 to 70% of all investments, at least in the early stage, level, is because of the founding team or the founder or the founding teams that have been put together. That makes sense? Is that helpful?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And because I'm like trying to also think about, okay, so if I'm writing or if I'm talking to people, how do I also begin to understand where the investors are coming from and what I'm really hearing? And this is a phrase that we have in therapy, which we use. Like, I just came out of a supervision session, and we'll keep repeating to each other that, like, it's okay no matter what happens in the room as long as you can talk about it. And you're really saying the same thing, that, like, you want to know if this person is somebody you can talk to whenever something happens, even if it's just this first 10 minutes. So are they giving me something substantive to respond to or to engage with or to imagine? And then when shit hits the fan, can I talk to them? How do we change? How do we switch? Like Darren was saying, that, like, can we bring somebody else on board, or are you going to get too insecure about this?
Yeah, I mean, so Darren just talked about something kind of along the lines of trust, right? Relationship. He said relationship building, right? Build a relationship.
Yep.
Look, and you're a therapist, right? COVID wreaked havoc on a lot of us from a mental non-in-person meetings and things like that. But we're now have the opportunity to meet face to face, and I really believe people. I mean, I know people do business with people they trust. In order to get that trust going, there has to be some relationship, something there that has got to be sticky between the two to develop that relationship. And I'm not a therapist, but I feel like I'm a therapist oftentimes for the mentor, for the advisor, or for the founders that I'm advising and mentoring. Okay, and I literally say in public, I'm a mentor, I'm an advisor, and I'm a therapist. I say that. Now, I'm not technically trained as a therapist by any means, or educated, but my point is that I am constantly helping them get off that ledge sometimes, right? They're about ready to jump off that ledge. And what the two things that I recommend to almost all the founders all the time is that you can't give up. No matter what, you cannot give up. It's really about perseverance.
Perseverance or grit? Or
Grit, perseverance, but I think they're kind of loosely used in the same realm, Adam.
Mhm.
I'm going to say perseverance because I think you got to be gritty too, but the perseverance, look, you got resiliency, but not giving up, whatever that word is, perseverance or anything, but it's really about not giving up. Okay. I see so many founders just give up really quickly, way too quickly. And that tells me a lot, right? That they're not really, again, going back to the psychoanalysis here. It's already bloody hard to be a founder from the jump. The headwinds are against you. If you're quitting on me this early or right, and you told me from early on, I'm so convicted, I'm did it, and then also I see you quit, right? I'm not sure if you were bullshitting me before or whatever it might be, but I know one thing: you're giving up. And in this world of entrepreneurship and startup, being a startup founder, it's not the smartest ones that win. It's not the most educated. It is the ones that don't give up. I'm telling you, it's the ones that don't give up. And it's so important because it might feel very lonely. It is a lonely world typically, especially if you're a solopreneur. But you never know when you might have your breakthrough. Or look, when you build a relationship and you're building trust, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight like you do with your cousins or your family, where the trust is immediate because you're blood and things like that. It takes time to develop a relationship with angels or investors or VCs. The other thing that I recommend to founders, not only not giving up, is go get a mentor. Go find someone who has walked this journey already before you. Now, that mentor's journey is going to be different than your journey as a founder, but he or she has already walked this journey, can see in the future potentially of any pitfalls that you might, or obstacles that you might be, confronting soon. And again, my journey would be different as a mentor than your journey as a founder. My journey as a founder, that is, be different from yours, but I've done this for a long time, and so if you can go out as a founder, go get a mentor or someone who can help advise you to hopefully avoid any really massive, fatal potential issues. It's so imperative to go find a mentor or an advisor. I really just cannot stress that enough. Not give up, and go find a mentor or an advisor who can really, be there for you and is in your camp, but also will give you the truth, right? Because you need to know that your baby's ugly right now, but your baby's looking a little more prettier every day. But right now it's still ugly, versus a yes sir or yes ma'am kind of person, right? You need to have that truth. Founders need to have thick skin on that. But getting a good mentor is really, really, I think, critical as well. And those are the two things that I really highly recommend to founders early on when I first meet them. Don't give up and go find a mentor.
excellent.
Yeah, the mentor is very, very important. I think, especially early on, you need somebody to bounce things off of, who's going to keep you honest and keep you motivated. I think that's pretty important. And there's lots of places you can go to get them. I mean, Adam and I have both been involved or are still involved in SCORE, which is the SBA's mentorship program, which, helps you with business planning and, really sort of early stages of that. Probably not as good, Adam, you would say, like, as you get into the true, like, angel phase of things. I'm not sure they're quite as good at that. But I think for the beginning phases, they just can help you get organized.
Yeah. When I was a mentor, I actually left the program, but when I was a mentor for SCORE, I would get a lot of people that just was like, well, I know I want to start a business, but I don't know what I want to do. So you hand them the, personality test, you have the grit to do this, and then you hand them the entrepreneurship, quiz, and you compare the two, and, like, what do you love to do? If you could only do one thing for the balance of your life, what would it be? And then you get other people that want to, do all these lofty decisions, but they don't have two dimes to rub together. And it's nothing that, like, everything they need is, centered around a loan of some sort. So, I always said that, SCORE is a great starting point. And then the founders group is a great jumping off point. It's the graduation, you're going from, essentially middle school to high school or college, depending on what stage you're actually in. So
I'm curious, Neil, from your perspective, because you're a therapist, are you only working exclusively with like startup? I mean, it's a very niche if you are, but are you working primarily with just startup founders?
No, I mean, I've been in the mental health field for 10 years now. So, and I actually started working in conflict spaces. So I worked with marginalized communities, I worked in slums, I worked with communities affected by conflict, conflict. Working with founders is actually something I've started in the last year or so because I was looking at my practice and I was looking at, okay, I need this to grow, but right now the Indian mental health market is very different from the American market. In the American market, you have your insurance covering your fee in a lot of cases, or you have Medicaid. And so therapists can earn a sustainable salary. In India, that's not the case. To earn a sustainable salary, you have to charge an amount that people can't afford out of pocket. So, I mean, it's difficult. And I was just like looking at spaces where people looked like they needed help. And it seemed like, okay, founders seemed like, they're self-motivated. They really do want to work on themselves. They have an external motivation to work on themselves, which is to get funded, which is to start this company, which is to, move in a certain direction. And there's nobody else there. So it just seemed like a great opportunity to jump in and say, hey, I'm going to do this.
You're the first therapist that I've met, actually, truth be told, Neil, that actually focuses on startup founders, because I can tell you, especially a lot of the solopreneurs, hey, it's a very lonely world, and you're sitting in your four walls trying to decide on something that could be a very impactful decision, right? And like I said earlier, I feel like I'm a therapist to the founders, and yeah, I see how they could use help. Where are you based out of?
I'm based out of New Delhi, India.
You're in India?
Yeah.
What state?
New Delhi, the capital. Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's great. At least, I know the founders I work with here in the stateside, they really could use some help. Many of them struggle, I think, mentally, emotionally, psychologically. It just, again, because it's a lonely world, A, B, they're struggling to get this company going, or maybe they're considered the, supposed to generate, the breadwinner of the family, and they're not doing that. I mean, there's a lot of issues, right? And look, kind of what I was saying about, maybe SCORE, I tell all these founders when they first kind of go on this journey, be ready for a monster roller coaster ride. Okay, there's gonna be a lot of lows and maybe some highs. It is like this every day. I say, tell your significant other, your spouse, your dog, your cat, your neighbor, by the way, I'm about ready to start an entrepreneurial journey, and it's going to be a crazy roller coaster ride that's going to be emotional and draining, and and there's going to be times where like, what did I do? Why am I doing this? Right? And there's always going to be, it's so difficult. If this was easy, everyone and their mom would be doing it, but it's so bloody difficult. 9 out of 10 startups fail. Right? Nowhere else is it, like this difficult. I'm not saying it only, but in my opinion, having worked in corporate, having started my own businesses, as I said earlier, the headwinds are against you from the jump. And then God forbid if you're a minority and you're a woman, right? I mean, you're talking about now even funding wise, most of the money goes to 97% goes to a white male. But outside of that, if you're a minority and you get 3%, and then if you're a minority woman, you get less than 1%. I mean, you look at it and go, how big of a mountain do I have to climb? Right. And so that can take a toll on you just mentally, knowing that you're already, before you begin, you're already at a massive, disadvantage. Especially if you're looking to grow this thing, scale it, and exit from it and sell it, right? Look, you can have a great business generating $1 million a year and be even keel and just continue that. And that's a great business, no doubt. But if you really want to pour fuel in the fire and scale this thing, you're going to need probably outside investor money, more than likely. And if you want to exit this to, to some competitor or conglomerate or to PE or, whomever, it's going to be a long journey and it's going to be an emotional roller coaster ride. And it's just so many people can't handle it and they quit because they can't handle it. And I get it. But if they had someone like you in their camp, maybe to help support them in a way, could it be helpful? Because I tell you, I half of my conversations is just not about really business, it's about their feelings, what they're feeling at the moment, and how fragile they are and how emotional, drained they are and mentally drained. And they just want to go crawl up in a corner and, into a ball and cry. And again, that's where I feel like I'm holding their hand and kind of taking them off that ledge because they, want to give up so quickly. And it's hard. It's not easy, no doubt. But I tell you, the reward is unbelievably great if you are successful. You create jobs for people. You're, maybe fostering innovation. You're a pillar in the community. And the next thing you know, you might be making a bunch of money and then exit. But oftentimes we're going to go through, I had, several failures myself, and you have those failures that are hopefully learn lessons and great stepping stones to your next adventure. Because again, 9 out of 10 fail. So the chance of you being successful is still slim. But the more experience that you have, you don't give up, go get a mentor, you improve your chances to ultimately have a successful venture at some point.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I used to tell my clients. It's like, people always ask me why I always beat my head against the wall, and I always tell them because it feels so good when I stop. So that's a pretty good analogy of what startup life is like.
Yeah. Just not faint of heart, as we say, right? And look, I've done this for a long time, since 2010, and I actually started a company when I was 14 years old. So I had my, I had my first experience as a 14-year-old starting a business, and obviously lots of, just trial and error and learning. But entrepreneurship, to me, this is my definition, means freedom. And more than anything, it just means freedom. The freedom to make my own choices. But also, I know that the choices I make, I got to live with those consequences, good or bad. But they're my decisions. And so I think a lot of people, go into that mindset of, I want to start a business to get rich, or, and hopefully think of it like, I don't want to work for the man no more, right? I want to be my own boss and be my own business. But what they don't understand and truly underestimate is how difficult and how tough it is. And it's just not for the faint of heart. And because I know that, that's why I do a lot of this kind of psychology evaluation on founders, because I know how difficult it is. I know how easy it is to quit. I know that you want to, as Adam said, want to beat your head on the desk, right? All these things come into play that are so critical to the success of the business. I've seen great ideas, unbelievable ideas, go down the toilet bowl because the founder or the founding team can't get out of their own way.
Yep.
And then I've seen some shitty ideas take off to the moon because, man, they executed. They persevered. They were resilient. They were gritty. They didn't give up, right? And next thing you know, They're knocking down deals and grabbing traction. And they even themselves will say that I have an inferior product right now, but I'm not giving up. And so it's really, I look at it and go, wow, this superior product, unbelievable product went down the toilet bowl because the team or the founder, ego the size of a house, couldn't get out of their way.
Yep.
Right. And it's kind of what Darren was saying earlier, with the person that he didn't invest in because they just couldn't get over the hump. And early on when I was doing this, my gut radar wasn't as good, obviously, as it is now. But like I said, one meeting gives me a little bit of an idea, and then subsequent meetings, now I get to really understand you and understand, I'll throw some curveballs in there and questions and test them a little bit and see how they react and what they would do, just to kind of see how, because again, if I'm investing in a company, man, I'm investing in the founders, and I can't have them run to the hills when shit hits the fan with a tail between the legs. I want them to fight like a badger, even if it means death. I want them fight, because guess what? I might invest in you on the next deal.
Yep.
Even if you have a failure, I might invest in you because I just love you so much. And maybe you were just too early for something, or maybe it was just the wrong market conditions, whatever it might be. But if I think you as a founder, whatever you put together, and I say this a lot, Neil, if I trust you, I believe in you, I believe you can execute. If you told me that you could sell ice to Eskimos and sell $1 billion worth, it may not be novel or, unique by any means, but if I believe you can really execute and get this thing across the finish line, I'm in. And that's really because of the founder, right? Again, nothing unique. There's no really even moat here. But if I really believe that anything you touch turns to gold and that you can execute and you've got the stamina and the strength mentally to withstand all the beat downs that you're going to get, right? There's a good chance that I'm going to invest in you, whatever you do. And this is why you see former exited founders or former founders who have raised money successfully and take on a business and grown it. The next thing they do, they go out and start another startup. For them, the raise is easy. They go back to the people that invested in them, and immediately they're falling into them again. Even with a failure, they're oftentimes have no problems getting a raise for that next company or the next venture they do. And there's something about that experience and showing the world that, man, I got beat up big time, but I'm here and I made it. And or even if I had a failure, I went through hell, but I learned a lot, great stepping stones for me, and I'm ready for the next one. And next thing you know, you've got the A16s or the Andreessen Horowitz jumping all over them, with massive amount of money because you've already proven to me that you know how to grow a company and scale it. Maybe it didn't exit like we had, or maybe it even went under, but there's a good chance. And they'll put some guardrails up next time for you so that you don't make some other mistakes, but they know that you can really grow this thing and scale it. And so when they go back to these big VCs for a ton of money, oftentimes, they skip angels, they skip everything. They go right to the VC on the next startup typically, and they'll go get all that money from the VC, and that VC will invest in them through the whole entire journey because they've demonstrated, that they've got just the acumen to handle this and the mental stamina and again, strength to really overcome all these obstacles, no matter how bad it is. And that's what I look in founders, gritty, perseverance, resiliency, tenacity, coachable, investable. Are they vulnerable? Do they have integrity? Are they honest? Right? Because look, we know that problems are going to arise. You can't tell me everything is hunky-dory going well. There's no way. I'm not going to believe it. And but if I trust you and you're honest and you're vulnerable and you're coachable, you're likely investable.
So true. All right, gentlemen, I have to jump.
Yeah, I do too.
All right. Ichen, you got to have an appointment. Do you need to leave as well? Or
Yeah, I'm leaving in about 5 minutes.
All right, gotcha. I'm going to go ahead and just mute myself and turn off the camera, but you guys keep going, and then I'll just hang up when you're done. Okay? So thank you very much for your time, both of you. I appreciate you, and Neil, of course. All right, we'll catch you guys later.
Nice chatting with
All
you,
right.
Neil. If you need anything else and all, but
No, this was great. I mean, I was so lucky. I was the only one here today, so I got to talk to all three of you.
yeah.
You got your own one-on-one session.
Yeah.
People die for this on the group. And I was just like, I just logged into it. I was like, oh, this one here, I get to shoot my shot.
I do an often hours for an accelerator program that I'm a part of. I'm a part of a number of accelerators. I do office hours, and we've got like 10 people on the call on average, 7 and 10 that I'm handling these off hours with a couple of other folks. And so, yeah, you get a lot of attention today because normally it's very, very little.
Yeah, no, it was good because I got to hear you guys like just be really honest about what it's like. Again, like I asked, like, what is it like for people to be coming to you 40 times a day asking for money? And this is, what you're looking for. You're looking for somebody that you can have a relationship with, somebody who can persevere, somebody who's proving themselves to.
Yeah.
And I do think you're in a good like kind of emerging field, because I do think that startup founders having a therapist who's focused on that kind of journey would be a differentiator when you're looking at a deal.
Let me just tell you, Neil, 900,000 startups are created every year. Okay.
And 9 out of 10 of those fail.
I should say 900,000 businesses, including startups, okay, are started every year.
Yeah.
Kind of what Darren's saying. It's forever growing. People are always thinking, I want to, be an entrepreneur of some sort. Right? The stats are still very, very difficult, right, to swallow. And yet still almost 1 million businesses are started every year, regardless of the odds. Right? Because what are we? We're hopeful. Right?
Yep. And that's just accelerating. I do a lot of work with the college in New Jersey where I went to school, and they were saying in the School of Business it's really hard for them because like they're trying to talk people out of going, because everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, and they're trying to tell people like, hey, a lot of these fail, you should maybe think of a backup plan. And everybody's like, no, I want to start my own business, control my own destiny. And so it's going to keep growing, I think, more so with things happening out in the environment.
Yeah, so I think you're in a good niche, like Darren's saying. You could be in an area that's growing, because even despite all these odds, it's still accelerating. People are still wanting to be their own, like control their own destiny and be their own boss, and yet, right, they're entering this crazy market knowing that 9 out of 10 fail or 8 out of 10 fail, and they're going to get beat up and punished before they fail, and yet they still volunteer to go do it. It's a crazy world, because that hope is that dream of being, an entrepreneur and creating hopefully generational wealth is that big pot of gold, the rainbow that they want to go after and seek. And and so I think you focusing on that could be, like I said earlier, a niche area for you, because I don't see too many, therapists that are focusing on like the startup founder and the entrepreneur. And I do have to go now. But,
I got to run too.
Yeah.
Thanks
All
so
right,
much.
thanks, Neil.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sean. Good to see you.
Appreciate having all this time.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.